So about that KFM documentary.
What's up, everybody? What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Fat.
How's it going, everybody? This is Jordan Paul, and you're tapped into
Straight back to the Country Fan Mail Podcast.
So 2024, it was supposed to be a different year, I'll say, for me and for the podcast. So I originally started the podcast officially back in 2020, unofficially back in like 2018 or so. And I was going, pretty hard with it for, saying those 4 to 6 years or whatever. And I, into 2023, there was a lot of stuff going on in my life. I was in school. I had I lost my job earlier in the year around this summer of 2023, and I was still trying to do this podcast. I was interviewing and doing all this other stuff, with different artists, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a year away from podcasting, a year from putting out content more so. I never actually stepped away from podcasting. I more so just took a year to not necessarily put out content. And within that year, I was supposed to be every month tapping in with a different artist, a different group, a different area within, saying my means or whatever when I was living in Cali. And saying just tapping in, actually getting on the scene footage of my interaction with them, just watching them kind of do their thing. And then I was going to culminate all that information and put it into this huge documentary that I was supposed to be releasing here in 2025. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen. But it's not because it didn't start. Let me explain. So literally, when I tell you the documentary started January, well, it actually started December 31st or December 31st, because it started on we were at a New Year's Eve party and recording footage there. So I literally was gonna have footage every single month going forward. I think I might have made it to March before everything just started getting a little crazy for me. Again, trying to put out content and trying to do something completely independent while also being unemployed, it is not easy, what I'm saying? And then on top of that, again, I was still going to school. I was in school for at Full Sail University for my audio production degree, and I was like, those are the two things I want to do. I want to complete my degree and I want to do this podcast. I completed the degree. That's dope. But this documentary, it's really hard to maneuver when it seems like a lot of things are going against you. When I lost my job back in 2023, July 2023, it was from when I was blindsided. I was not expecting it. It wasn't due to conduct. It wasn't due to ability. Like it wasn't like a work base. I just had a glowing review, maybe 5 days, before I ended up getting a text message that I was no longer going to be employed with that company. And it hit me like a bag of bricks. I think that was probably one of the hardest situations that I've dealt with when it came to employment since I got out of the military. I got out of the military back in 2014. So you can imagine, almost 10 years later, 9 years later, I guess, I was back in another situation where I'm just not understanding what I did to cause this reaction. But either way, it happened. And crazy enough, I was literally unemployed for damn near a year. Like I was, and it wasn't, it wasn't due to a lack of trying. I can't even imagine or even try to count how many applications I put in and how much time that I really put in. Shout out to my father, but one of the things that I remember him saying to me when I was really young, and he was like, looking for a job is a full-time job itself. So I was really putting in hours looking for a position, and crazy enough, the first people that gave me a chance after I lost my job was Amazon. Oddly enough, I didn't stay there that long because it's a pretty crazy place, but it just really had me feeling like a leper. Like it really had me feeling like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that I literally cannot get people to believe in me or to trust that I have something to offer. And that trickled over into the podcast and into the documentary because, you know, I've had, in my personal opinion, if I am gone today, and if my legacy is just this podcast, I would honestly feel like I was successful, because there's some people out there who want to talk to more people and want to have a bigger reach than I am. And you know, I put out a video yesterday and it has almost like 150 views, and I'm that's amazing to me, and I'm not even joking. So different, you know, varying levels of what people see as success. But anyways, it doesn't quite amount to the time and the effort that you put into it. For every 5 artists that I reach out to for an interview, only one of them says yes. Well, I'll take it back. 2 of them say yes, and only one of them is actually going to do the interview. The other one that says yes is going to stand you up. They're going to stop communicating with you. They're going to say everything's good up until the time of the interview and then just not show up. It's going to be a whole situation. So you wasted your time. You've done all this promotion campaign. You've done all this hype for it. And then they just don't show up. So it's a pretty demeaning thing. And regardless of how many of the ones that do show up, the ones that don't show up still bother you, as much as I hate to admit it. And so when it came down to the documentary, you know, for the last 4 years of the podcast before that, I was doing everything essentially digital, or, you know, over how you seeing me right now, you know. And I wanted to get into a place where I was doing things in person. I did, you know, 2 really dope in-person interviews while I was out there in Cali. Shout out to the Wavy Dad, shout out to Kinda Odd. And those were super dope. So I was like, all right, cool. The capacity is there. I've learned from things, you know what I'm saying? There were some things happening, like, all right, bet I learned. Let's go ahead and make it better, you know, get on the ground, actually tap in with people, you know what I'm saying? Go to their places and shit like that. You can't do that shit when you broke. You can't do that shit when you broke. And it didn't take me that long to realize that, and it hurt. It really did, because I wanted so hard, so badly to put out content in this past year. And now, granted, this happened in so if you're keeping up, this is March. I haven't even got to the rest of the year, which I'm not going to spend too much more time on this video. I'm going to kind of speed through it. But I'm pretty sure Like That by Kendrick dropped in April. And from April up into about a week ago, this shit was very active, as far as if you were putting out content between this beef or anything that was going on there, you were going stupid viral. I mean, I've seen so many people eat off of that. It was really hard for me not to like just dive into it and be like, oh, this is easy. I mean, I'm a Kendrick fan. You know, I listen to a lot of Drake's music. I used to be a Drake fan, but it's like, you know, I feel like I really have a lot that I can do. But I was like, you know, I took this year away from it for a reason. And I feel like it gives me a certain a unique standpoint, because a lot of people really, you know, shared some really crazy opinions, share some really based opinions, share some really interesting opinions during that time. And just being able to be a watcher and a consumer and a listener versus somebody actually putting my shit out there expecting people to pay attention to it, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool being able to just kind of sit back and watch versus worry about what people are consuming. So anyways, all that's happening. Fast forward to what's the September time frame. I ended up getting arrested while defending my family. Complete false pretense of what the arrest charge was for, and that's hence the reason why the DA decided not to press charges, because there was no case, because it just didn't happen the way that it was told that it happened. And you know, it set off a crazy fast chain of events, which had us end up, you know, we ended up leaving Cali a lot sooner than we planned on leaving. And, hence why we're here in Ohio. Not why Ohio specifically, but, moving out of California, more so the less. So it was, as I'm just kind of like saying this out loud and, kind of bringing everything to a conclusion for this video is, had I had a crew following me that whole year, like had I had a crew following me for the year, that would have been a crazy documentary. Like, it would have been a really cool documentary. Like, to start off as a documentary and then to turn into a documentary about a documentary that never came out would have been the craziest shit ever. I'm just saying, somebody should actually take that idea, but it won't be. It actually, no, that you shouldn't take that idea because it won't be natural. It won't be authentic. That would have been authentic. Y'all would have seen the pain that I had. And I do have footage. Like I said, I stopped in March, maybe April time frame. So I do have footage that I might release at some point in time with some type of context. But yeah. Anyways, I think what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing wrong with not 100% completing the things that you say that you're going to do, especially if you are able to reflect and take stock on why it didn't happen. As long as you can learn, as long as you can understand why it didn't happen and move on and do things differently, better, whatever, the next time, that's really all that matters in my personal opinion. So yeah, I want to apologize to everybody. I don't think that I had just huge crowd of people waiting for this documentary, but I feel like there was somebody like, dang, I'm excited to see that. So I want to apologize to y'all. And just know that, we're out here still cooking. We're out here still trying to get better. So anyways, Clue to Don, Country Family Podcast. Thank y'all so much for tapping in. Till next time.
What's up, everybody? What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Fat.
How's it going, everybody? This is Gordon Paul, and you're tapped in.
Straight back to the Country Fan Mail Podcast.